always, I am joined by our sports star extraordinaire, Gehrig Gesch, who is going to take us through the details, the practical, all the minutia of local sports here. So, Gehrig, how are you doing today, man?
I'm doing great. Great to be back on the show for week number 2. Let's get into it.
First things first, we're going to talk Emerald Coast Classic. Yeah, basketball might be wrapping up. We might be witnessing, depending on when this thing actually gets out, the end of the NBA season, unless I'm mistaken and they've already won with Game 6 or something, because three kids, half of them are sick. I don't know what's going on anymore. The Emerald Coast Classic field for men and women has been announced for this Thanksgiving. Can you kind of just run us through who's playing on, let's take the women's side first. Who's playing and what can we expect from these teams?
Yeah, so from the women, the way they're doing it this year, it's going to be 2 brackets, the Bay bracket and the Beach bracket. In the Bay brackets, Providence, Middle Tennessee State, Mississippi State, and Alcorn State. So you have some Power 5 teams there. And then in the Beach bracket, it's Nebraska, Purdue, Fort Wayne, Virginia, and Northwestern State. In my opinion, there are some interesting matchups all up and down the board. When I was doing research on these teams, the main theme is who do you have returning? In women's basketball, the transfer portal rather, is honestly worse than men's basketball, which is, something that's kind of surprising to me. You have teams like Providence, top 5 scorers all graduated. Middle Tennessee State, entire starting lineup leaves. And then you have teams like Mississippi State lose a bunch of players to in-conference transfers as well. So there's a lot of new faces is going to make up these teams. In terms of the Bay bracket, I'm really looking at Mississippi State, though. That's the team I think to beat. That's SEC talent. They won a game in the NCAA tournament last season. They're coming up with 3 ESPN Top 100 freshmen who are going to be crucial to the team in the next season for head coach Sam Purcell. He's entering year 4. I think they get past Alcorn State, and then I think Middle Tennessee State beats Providence, and then Mississippi State wins the championship there. But Middle Tennessee State's a team that I don't want anyone to sleep on. 16-2 in Conference USA last season, so really good basketball over there at Rader Arena in the Bay bracket. And in the Beach bracket, you have Nebraska, Purdue, Fort Wayne, Virginia, and Northwestern State. Far and away the team to beat, in my opinion, in this bracket is Nebraska. They bring back Natalie Potts, who had an injury that shortened her season a season ago, but she was the best player on the floor when she was healthy, rebounded the ball well, scored the ball well. And then you also bring back Britt Prince, stud freshman, over 13 points a game last season, Big Ten all-freshman team. This is the team out of all 8 that have had the least amount of players enter the portal. And I think that familiarity, is going to be huge in this tournament, especially earlier in the season when players haven't really had the chance to gel yet with their new teams and new coaches.
Absolutely. And looking for a little bit of a local connection, I remember that Destiny McFall, who's on Mississippi State's team this year, she's a senior, but she played 2 years here at Northwest Florida State under head coach and national champion for the National Junior College Athletic Association, Bart Walker. She's going to be making a return to Rader Arena. She's put up some big minutes and some big numbers in her first year last year at Mississippi State. And like you said, they won the first round of the NCAA tournament with her playing lots of minutes. So if you were to pick, as I understand it, Nebraska is not going to play Mississippi State, but if you're looking at these 2 teams, who's the team that you're saying, like, this is the best team that's showing up?
Yeah, so I think that is kind of unfortunate how we don't get to see the 2 winners of these brackets play each other, but I get it. It's a shortened schedule. For me, it's Nebraska, just because what I talked about earlier, the Big Ten is so good in women's basketball, and the SEC is no slouch either. But I think that the amount of returning players from Nebraska, the familiarity, the head coach Amy Williams has been there since 2016. She's looking for her 3rd straight NCAA tournament appearance with the Cornhuskers. I think if they were to play, theoretically, Nebraska gets the job done in a really close one.
On to the men's bracket. This is the first year where we've had women and men's tournaments for the Emerald Coast Classic over the Thanksgiving Day weekend. So a lot of basketball to be played at Rader Arena. Who are the teams that are playing for the men, and what should we expect?
Yeah, so unlike the women, it'll be just 4 teams for the men, 1 bracket. It'll be LSU playing Drake in the opening matchup, as well as Georgia Tech playing DePaul. These are 4 really good gets from the Emerald Coast Classic. I think these 4 teams are ones that maybe underperformed, aside from Drake in 2024, 2025, but have really high ceilings and have brought in some really good transfer classes in 2025, 2026. I'll start with LSU. Just bad last year, 3-15 in the SEC. They played a gauntlet of a schedule, 10 ranked matchups, lost them all. They have the 16th ranked portal class, however. That's what I'm looking at. They bring in the number 6 overall point guard in the class, Daedon Thomas from UNLV, 15.6 points, 6.7 assists a game. That's big numbers. And then they have a head coach, season 4 with Matt McMahon, a guy you may know. led up the Murray State team with John Morant a couple years ago that made waves in the NCAA tournament. And then they play Drake. This for me, this is the biggest question mark of the tournament. Drake, an insanely good team last year, 31-4 Missouri Valley Conference champs, won a game in the NCAA tournament. They beat an SEC team in Missouri in that tournament, actually. And the head coach leaves, Ben McCollum. His best player, Bennett Sturts, one of the best players in the country, leaves to join him at Iowa. 5 other of his players transferred to Iowa with him. So 6 transfers in right now. No one really notable that I could kind of make out. So this is a new team. Nobody really knows what it's going to look like. Should be interesting. A lot of success last year. Then the second matchup, Georgia Tech and DePaul. Again, 2 just middle tier teams, 17-17 for Tech a season ago, 14-20 for DePaul. And the interesting thing I'm looking at here is DePaul is led by head coach Chris Holtmann, who the last time this men's tournament was held, Chris Holtmann led the Ohio State Buckeyes to win the Emerald Coast Classic. So he has the experience in this tournament, knows how to win it. He's bringing back his leading scorer, C.J. Gunn, as well as adding a 7-footer come-on maker. Really going to be big on size, but that's going to be Georgia Tech's MO as well. They bring back Bayan Dongo. He was third team all ACC last season, and they added the number 2 center in this year's high school class, Muhammad Silla. Good rim protector, elite defender, dangerous in physical front court. The Georgia Tech versus DePaul matchup will be extremely physical. Going to be a fun one at Northwest Florida State College.
Who are your winners from the first round, and then who you say takes the cake in this one?
I like LSU over Drake just because of the fact that they bring in experienced guys. It's SEC talent. Drake, this is going to be their rebuilding year. And then I think I like Georgia Tech over DePaul. That one's tough. That one could go either way. I know Chris Holtmann, I mentioned him earlier, knows how to win this tournament. I like Georgia Tech and LSU in the championship. And I think LSU is going to be able to walk away with the Emerald Coast Classic Championship. It's going to be a fun week of basketball. I believe the men's matchups are first, followed by the women's. So all of Thanksgiving break that week, it'll be a fun time with some college hoops in Niceville, Florida.
So moving on to the football side of things, the high school football side of things, you have had a deep dive into the guts, into the bowels of how administrative high school football works. And you've come up with a piece of gold. And that piece of gold is, how in the world do football playoffs work in this state? And my friend, you've kind of come up with like a 2-part situation. So tell us about how playoffs are going to work this year for people that are kind of like, well, I know that like something happens. And then let's get into the 2026 behemoth of whatever that thing was coming up next. So 2025, what are the rules and what should we expect?
Yeah, so 2025, we're going to have 32 teams make each classifications playoff, 1A through 7A. Rural's a little bit different. They don't have as many teams. But we'll just talk about 1A through 7A. You have 32 teams. You have 8 teams in each regional playoff. The 4 district champions are automatic qualifiers. That should be pretty simple. You win your district, you go to the playoffs. Then the next 4 come from at-large bids, which is where it gets a little confusing because this is the question of, well, how is an at-large bid determined? How do they make it? Why are they in over this team? What the FHSAA does is they use a ranking system that is similar to Max Preps, which many of you probably know the Max Preps rankings, but it takes out the predictive model and as well as it includes forfeitures. So it is strictly based on that Max Preps ranking, or the Max Preps ranking system minus predictive plus forfeitures that FHSAA has on their website. It's updated every week, and it includes things like strength of schedule, rating, wins, like I said, forfeitures. After those district champions are taken out, whoever the top 4 down the list, those are the 4 at-large teams who will make it. And so a lot of times you could even see an at-large team ranked higher than a district champion. And when that comes in is once all the 8 teams that make a region's playoffs are determined, they are all reseeded 1 through 8. So you could have a 1 seed be an at-large and an 8 seed be a district champion. So you might be wondering, well, if they reseed, what is the incentive to win districts? What I found out is that a district champion will always host in the first round of the playoffs. So you could have that 8 seed hosting the 1 seed. It's happened a couple times before in the recent past. So really intriguing stuff there. And that's kind of where the confusion ends. After the first round, after who makes it, you just play it bracket style all the way to the state semifinals, state finals, until you find yourself a classification champion.
And so for the uninitiated into the deep math of all of this, right? Does this mean in theory, so let's say Niceville's region, right? You got Niceville, Milton, Gulf Breeze, Mosley, right? Let's say that all 4 of them just have banging seasons, right? You know, let's say Milton is the worst team, right? But they defeat like IMG and they defeat Lakeland and, non-conference away games, right? Can all four teams from the district make playoffs?
They can. They definitely can. You take out that district champion, let's just say for the sake of it, it's Niceville, and you have three teams left. If those three teams are good enough, if they rank high enough on all the criteria that goes into the FHSAA rankings, that after you take out the four district champions, they're 1, 2, 3, or 2, 3, 4, or however you want to do it inside the top four, those teams would be at large advancing into the regional playoffs.
Gehrig, when I got my journalism degree, I was told there would be no math. And for the umpteenth time in a decade, I am disappointed because there is, in fact, so much math. And we'll talk more possibly about math, maybe not. Eric, we talked about 2025, but 2026 is going to blow everything up. And it's kind of insane and reminds me of the UEFA Champions League, which I'm not sure I love, but I am willing to listen. And you have all the details. So tell me, what can we expect in 2026 when it comes to playoff football?
Well, first of all, I'm a big fan of the UEFA Champions League. I'm a Chelsea supporter, so they'll be playing in that competition next season. But if you're familiar with that at all, you are going to be very familiar with this upcoming feature in the FHSAA playoffs. They are going to be introducing what they call the Open or the Championship Division, where I talked about these FHSAA rankings earlier in the show. Rankings 1 through 8, all classifications will be pulled out into their own division, and they will play in a double elimination style tournament to decide really one state champion for all of Florida. There's not going to be, any argument over, well, you won 6A, I won 7A. Well, now we're going to know who the real state champion is in all of Florida. And this doesn't diminish the other playoffs. We'll still have 1A through 7A playoffs, just with, a few teams taken out. I think this is going to be a really interesting feature. Not sure how teams or coaches are going to bite on it yet, but I think as a fan, this is something we can be absolutely thrilled about with matchups we haven't been able to see due to classification restrictions in the playoffs.
So this the whole way this thing's going to work is the best 8 teams. I'm assuming that's based on that max preps minus model for what I'm
Yes,
guessing calling
correct.
it is these are the top 8 teams based on the math. Oh, man, if you have to pick 8 teams to go, I'm assuming 4 of them are going to be from 7A, 2 of them are going to be from 6A, one maybe from 5A, and then like St. Thomas Aquinas, like I guess it's 5A, but you get the idea. Lakeland maybe. What do you see as the big pluses to this? And then what are you worried about? Do you have any kind of like concerns about doing it this way?
Yeah, well, surprisingly, I was looking at the FHSA rankings on their website from a season ago, and the classifications were pretty fairly split. We had a couple 2A teams in there as well as Chaminade Madonna. I know they're a team from a lower classification. So that was surprising me. One of my initial concerns was, well, it's just going to all be 7A, 6A teams. I don't think that'll be the case based off this ranking system that the Florida High School Athletic Association uses. That's going to be the positive, I think, where we really get to see kind of across the board these classifications go head to head. What I am concerned about still is maybe teams not wanting to play in this division, saying it might be easier to win in 4A than say it is to win the open division. And so you have teams who don't really want to be in this top 8. They just want to make their playoffs, and they're not going to really, I'm not going to say they're going to sandbag, but it's teams that they feel they have a real chance to win a state championship in their respective classification, less so in the open division. I think that creates kind of a tension between this playoff format.
I'm looking at the max preps math rankings right now, and according to their math, right, and so there might be a little bit of a difference, but top 8 teams would be Chaminade Manana, IMG, Venice, St. Thomas Aquinas, Central, American Heritage, and Northwestern, which I believe are all south of Orlando teams, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Aquinas, Central. So the top rated north of like Orlando would be Lakeland, and then the top rated north of in the Panhandle, obviously, was Niceville, who is rated at number 18. So we're not like super far here in the Panhandle away from being in this UEFA Champions League football style thing. But, grain of salt, we also, saw Lakeland get absolutely smashed by, I believe it was Aquinas in the final, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right? That sounds right.
I think that
And
is
so,
it.
so there, there may be a big difference between 1 and 8. There might not be any difference between 1 and 8. So I guess that makes it kind of exciting to see a bunch of teams that otherwise wouldn't get to play, like you said. And then, yeah, one ring to rule them all. If you had to make the state championship trophy, what's that puppy looking like, man?
It's huge. I mean, it's bigger and better than any trophy that the FHSA has produced before because this is something they want to have a big hoopla around. They want people to buy in early. I think a trophy would help in that department.
I'm saying, like, instead of just getting them, like, a trophy that goes in the case, like, you weld something to the side of the school, real big, real shiny, I think would probably be good. But yeah, it's an exciting thing to watch, and, 2026 we'll see that, so this is the last year of those, classifications not having that much movement in them, but I'm excited. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you I'm not excited. That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, it'll be sick. I'm looking forward to it.
Welcome back to the Emerald Coast Sports Show. I am Christopher Saul. He is Gehrig Gesch, and we are the team bringing you the latest in local sports news. So we're going to talk a little bit about Robert Stith, the Niceville wideout, who is part of an arsenal, a quiver of weapons, a quiver of arrows that the new head coach Richard Morgan has inherited for his first campaign as the Eagles head man. Robert Stith has signed with West Virginia University, a big signing, a Division One signing, kind of continues a tradition of Division One signings for players at Niceville, getting at least one for gosh, I can't even remember how many years. But what do you know about this one, and what does this mean for both the Eagles and the Mountaineers?
Well, for the Mountaineers, it's a great get, and for the Eagles to have him for one more year is also incredibly lucky. Robert Stith just has insane speed, incredible track athlete as well. I know he's helped Niceville win some track state championships, and we see the speed in the football field as well. Great route running ability, great hands, great ball skills, and that I feel like that's going to translate to the next level at West Virginia. I think this is a really good spot for him to land. I know it was one of the top schools on his list, obviously the top school now, but to be able to bring in some of these offers and commit this early, I think, and become familiar with the program and the coaching staff, I think it's going to be really beneficial for both the Mountaineers and for Stith as well.
Yeah, and I've been I got to watch I think probably 8 or 9, maybe 8 of his games last year. The kid is flat out fast. The only thing and the only critique I'll make is I've seen a couple of drop balls that made me just broke my heart on a couple of them. But I mean, that's just part of like growing up, right? Like
For sure.
he's a great athlete. He seems to be a good kid and I'm sure he's been practicing, since the last season ended in the Final Four, where he caught plenty of balls. And so I'm very excited to see this young man play this coming season and at the next level. He's in there with a couple of other great, talents over on the offensive side of the ball, especially guys that are catching. I think the only question really for Niceville that I guess two questions that haven't been answered, but it can merge it into one is the backfield and seeing who's going to be throwing the balls and who's going to be taking handoffs. And so a lot of questions for Niceville, but definitely not in the ball catching department.
That's right. That's right. Going to be really important, really crucial to have him back next season.
And then looking across the base over, peering over to Choctaw, where the Big Green Indian is also getting ready for football season. They have reinstituted a tradition that they had for many years, the totem pole that they had, I guess, had gotten taken down a couple years ago, but they've reinstalled a new one, and it's kind of an identity thing for those guys, huh?
Yeah, for sure. Lots of love for that totem pole. I saw the picture of it. It looks really good. It's like you said, it's just tradition. It's buying into that Big Green Indian pride. A lot of good things going on over there at Choctaw right now. This totem pole being put up is one of them. Lots of support from around the county, from members of administration, from students, from faculty. I think just a lot of love for the tradition that Choctaw High School has.
Yeah, and it's always good to see rivalries and people getting ready early to play those tough games because I can't tell you how hard it is to watch a 60 to nothing blowout and be there for 4 quarters.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
so I'm excited to see really exciting football being played from Choctaw this year. And of course, you had a long conversation with Frank Beasley that we have on our website right now. Very interesting and kind of inspiring story to look there. And then now they have one more thing on their list to make them a bigger threat this year. I believe Niceville hosts Choctaw in late September. I don't want to give an exact date because I will be wrong. And that is not something that I want to do on the air until I'm actually just stalling until I pull it up. Here it is. It is going to be Choctaw, September 19th. So that is at home and it is after the Crestview game, which is September the 12th. I'm Christopher Saul. He is Gehrig Gesch, and this is the Emerald Coast Sports Show. Tune in next week because we're going to be talking to Joshua Wilson. He is the dude in charge of FloridaHighSchoolFootball.com. They compile almost as much data as Max Preps, except it's all Florida focused. He's going to have a lot to say about Panhandle football in the coming year, and he's much more, I think, quantitative than I am. So I'm probably in that interview just going to shut my mouth and be like, my guy, just give me the numbers, who's winning. Then I'll go to, I guess, the Creek Casino or something and put my bets down on that. I don't know. Anyway, thanks again for joining us. We'll see you next week.